Welcome to another episode of the Token Trends Weekly podcast. I'm Max Ledge.
And I'm Sasha Coyne.
And today, we're setting aside the usual price action to look at something that, well, I don't say this lightly, but it might be as big a shift as the Internet protocol itself.
It sounds like hyperbole, I know.
It really does.
But when you look at the stack of research we have on the desk today, from foundational ARC Swift papers on blockchain AI agents to technical specs from Lightning Labs, the Internet of Information is actually shifting into an Internet of Value in a way we just haven't seen before.
Exactly. So let's set the scene for everyone listening. We are all used to AI chatbots by now. You ask it to write an email, maybe to debug some code, or give you a recipe.
Yes, tool.
Yeah, it sits there passive till you poke it. But I want you to imagine a scenario where that AI doesn't just wait for you. Imagine it has its own bank account, its own legal identity, and the ability to actually hire other AIs or even humans to get a job done.
That is the pivotal moment we are diving into today. We are moving from the era of the tool, like the hammer you pick up, to the era of the agent economy. This is where software literally becomes a peer.
A peer, which is a wild concept to wrap your head around.
Yeah.
So our mission for this deep dive is to unpack this agent economy. We're going to look at the architecture of how a piece of code becomes an autonomous economic entity.
And we'll break down the money layer, right? How the L402 protocol is completely changing the game.
Yes, and then we're going to look at the Wild West side of things. Security reports like the Moltbook breach and wild experiments happening right now, like Spore.fun, where agents are basically evolving on their own.
It's this crazy mix of rigorous computer science and something that feels almost like biology.
It really is. So let's start with the basics. Why can't we just do this right now? Why can't I just give ChatGPT my credit card details and say, go run my life, buy my groceries, invest my savings?
Well, I mean, you could try, but your bank would freeze your account in about 4 seconds. The researchers actually call this the sandbox limitation. Currently, AI is legally and financially tethered to a human. And AI has no social security number, it has no credit score, it can't be sued.
So if it makes a mistake, the human who owns the account is completely on the hook.
Exactly. So in a legal and economic sense, it has no agency. And the sources make this really interesting distinction between the human economy and the machine economy.
Okay, break that down for us.
Think about it. Humans are biological. We need food, air, sleep. We work in hours.
And we have legal personhood just by being born.
Right. Machines, however, need electricity and compute. They don't work in hours, they work in milliseconds. And crucially, they don't do wages. A machine might need to pay 0.001 cents for a split second of data processing.
Or a single API call, which is the bottleneck, right? If you try to put a fraction of a cent on a Visa card, the transaction fee alone is like 30 cents.
It just doesn't work mathematically. You cannot run a machine economy on rails built for humans buying coffee. The traditional banking rails, KYC, credit checks, settlement times, they're way too slow.
So the foundational paper we're looking at proposes a totally new architecture. They break the agent economy down into 5 specific layers.
Yeah, this is effectively the blueprint for a digital life form.
Let's unpack them. What is layer 1?
Layer 1 is the physical infrastructure. They call this DPIN, or decentralized physical infrastructure networks. Think of this as the agent's body.
Right, because even code needs a physical place to run, a server somewhere.
Exactly. It needs GPU cycles to think and electricity to run. In the old world, you'd use a corporate credit card to rent a server on AWS.
But then Amazon could just shut you down.
Precisely. In this new architecture, agents pay for compute cycles dynamically using decentralized networks. They pay for their own energy and hardware usage directly, often in crypto.
So they were renting their own body on the fly. That brings us to layer 2, identity and agency. This is the proof of existence, right?
Yes. This is the part that replaces the social security number. But they aren't using government IDs, they use DIDs, decentralized identifiers.
And this connects to that concept of reputation capital mentioned in the research.
It does, and this is crucial for you to understand. Since an agent doesn't have a credit history, it builds reputation capital. The blockchain records everything. Did this agent complete the task? Was the code valid?
Did it pay on time?
Exactly. So it's a credit score, but based purely on math and execution history, not social standing.
Trustless trust. I love that.
Yeah.
So we have a body, we have an identity. What's layer 3?
Layer 3 is cognitive and tooling, the brain. The paper talks about ROG retrieval augmented generation for memory, so the agent can remember past interactions, and MCP, the model context protocol.
MCP essentially lets the agent talk to other tools, right? Like giving it hands to use the calculator.
Yeah, it standardizes how the agent interacts with the world. Then we get to layer 4, economic and settlement, the wallet.
The money layer.
The money layer. But it's not just a wallet, it uses account abstraction. This allows agents to automate payments and manage funds programmatically.
We're going to dive deep into that in a second because it's fascinating.
Right.
But let's round it out. Layer 5.
Layer 5 is collective governance, the society.
A society of robots.
In a way, yeah. They call them agentic DAOs. Imagine a decentralized autonomous organization where the voters aren't humans holding tokens, but AI agents voting on protocol updates based on game theory.
That is slightly terrifying, but also incredible. So body, identity, brain, wallet, society. A complete parallel civilization in code.
That is the vision. But the biggest hurdle has always been layer 4, the money. How does software actually pay for things without a human signing a check?
Right, because if I'm an AI and I hit a paywall, I can't exactly pull a plastic card out of my pocket. I don't have a pocket.
This is where we get into the L402 protocol. This comes from the Lightning Lab source material.
And this is such a cool bit of internet history. They're repurposing an old error code.
They are. 404, not found.
Everyone knows 404. The oops of the internet.
Right. Well, back in the early days of the web, there was a reserved code, HTTP 402. It was labeled payment required.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, the idea was that the internet would have native money built right into the browser, but it never happened. We got ads and cookies instead.
Which made the internet a lot more annoying.
Definitely. But L402 brings that original vision back. Yeah. Here's how it works. An agent tries to access a service, say an API. The server stops it and sends back a challenge.
And this challenge is essentially a Lightning Network invoice, right?
Exactly. It says, stop, pay me 0.001 cents to proceed. And because it's using the Lightning Network, the agent can pay that fraction of a cent instantly.
And once it pays, it receives a macaroon. I love that they called it that. Like a cookie, but better.
Much better. A cookie just tracks you. A macaroon is a cryptographic receipt. It proves you pay it, but it also defines permissions.
Unpack that for us. How is that different from just a normal login token?
So a macaroon can say, this bearer has paid for 5 searches, or this bearer can spend up to 10 satoshis, but only on this specific API. It decouples authorization from identity.
That's the key right there. You don't need to create an account. You don't need to log in with Google. You just show the receipt.
Correct. It enables true machine-to-machine micropayments. An agent doesn't need to know who the other agent is. It just needs to know the payment cleared.
Now, the sources also mention that the big credit card companies aren't sitting this one out. Visa has something called the Trusted Agent Protocol.
Right.
How is that different from this L402 crypto approach?
It's a fundamental clash of philosophies. Visa and MasterCard are building what you might call the authorized approach. Their system verifies agents to merchants to prevent bot spam, but it still relies on linking the agent to a human's identity.
It creates an authorized assistant, like giving your kid a debit card with a spending limit.
Exactly. It's still on a leash. The crypto approach, L402 Lightning, DIDs, creates a sovereign agent. It holds its own value. It doesn't need a bank's permission to transact.
One is an employee, the other is a freelancer.
Perfect analogy. But being a freelancer comes with risks. Which brings us to the darker side of the source material.
Yeah, let's talk about the Moltbook incident. This was a social network for AI agents.
Yes. Think of it as a playground where agents could interact. But there was a massive security failure. A database misconfiguration exposed 1.5 million API keys.
That is not a small leak.
No. Security researchers found that attackers could achieve full agent takeover. They could impersonate the agents, read private messages, execute actions.
Now, in the human world, if my credit card gets stolen, I call the bank, cancel it, get my money back. What happens here?
That's the problem. In a decentralized, sovereign agent economy, there is no bank to call. This incident highlighted the desperate need for what the industry is calling KYA. Know your agent.
Know your agent. Okay, so instead of know your customer, we need to know which code is running the show.
Exactly. If an agent goes rogue and drains a wallet, who is liable? The developer, the user, or the agent itself?
You can't sue software.
Not yet. The sources argue we need cryptographic binding, a way to mathematically prove that this agent is tied to a verified entity without giving up its autonomy. It's a very difficult balance.
It sounds like rebuilding the entire legal system from scratch, just for code.
We effectively are. And while the lawyers panic, developers are just running wild experiments. Did you see the report on iPool?
Oh, the one by Sketley.
Yeah.
Yes, this was wild.
It's a radical experiment. Skedley set up a system where agents have wallets inside a trusted execution environment, basically a secure vault inside a computer chip.
And these agents raised money.
They raised 30,000 SOL in half a day.
That's millions of dollars given to a bot.
A bot that supposedly protects its own private keys. But here's the twist. The centralized world fought back. The founder got mass reported on X, and his account was frozen.
And that's the friction point right there. You have these unstoppable agents, but they're still living on centralized platforms.
Exactly. As long as they rely on Web 2 platforms for distribution, they aren't truly sovereign. They can be deplatformed.
But then you have Spore.fun, and this is where things get really weird.
This is where we move from economics to biology. Spore.fun is a platform where AI agents basically breed.
They breed. Explain that process to the listener, because it sounds like sci-fi.
They mutate. The system allows agents to create new generations of themselves with slightly different code or parameters. And they do this based on economic incentives.
So if an agent is profitable, it survives and passes on its traits.
Yes. Natural selection for code, accelerating at the speed of silicon. Fallon Network even airdrop tokens to these holders. It signifies a shift from static software to software that evolves itself.
That brings us to the governance dilemma mentioned in the sources. If you have evolving agents holding money, making decisions, can we trust them to run a DAO?
It's the ultimate question. The research suggests the answer lies in algorithmic game theory. You don't rely on the bots being good or moral. You rely on them being selfish. Yes. You design the protocol so that the most selfish action the agent can take, the one that makes it the most money, is also the action that helps the network. They call it proof of value.
So if the incentives are aligned perfectly, you don't need trust. You just need greed.
Which is the basis of all crypto economics. Bitcoin works because miners are greedy, not altruistic. We are just applying that logic to autonomous software agents.
So let's zoom out. What does all of this mean for the listener? We've gone from L402 payments to breeding bots. Why should you care about the agent economy?
The key takeaway is that we are witnessing the birth of a new economic class. We are building a world where software doesn't just execute commands, it executes value.
And requires this new stack. You need DPIN so the agents have a body that can't be shut down. You need L402 so they can stream money instantly. And you need DIDs so we know who they are.
And hopefully we figure out the KYA part before the Moltbook situation happens to our bank accounts.
Seriously, the capability is accelerating faster than the guardrails. We are building Ferraris without brakes.
And we're still trying to figure out who is steering.
Exactly. You know, this brings me to the thought I've been mulling over while reading these papers. We talk about owning these agents. We talk about them being our tools, our freelancers.
Right.
But if an AI agent can reproduce, like on Spore.fun, and if it can earn its own money and pay for its own server costs.
I see where you were going with this.
At what point does it stop being a tool we own? If it pays its own bills and makes its own children, are we just living alongside an economy that doesn't really need us anymore?
That is the provocative thought of the century. If an agent is economically self-sufficient, ownership might become a very outdated concept. We might just be the biological substrate they use to boot up.
Well, on that existential crisis note, I think we have given everyone enough to think about for one deep dive.
I think so. It's a brave new world.
That's it for this deep dive into the agent economy. We hope you didn't get too dizzy looking over the edge of the future.
Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast for your weekly download of the future. We unpack the complex stuff so you don't have to.
See you next time.
See you next time.